The Alter Rebbe writes in Sa'if Hey, Kolel Rebbe safilu shel divreim matana mechila ma'eles balahatira she'afilu oimer haloi v'aninaisen lebematana also l'zalitna zalakabel. It means even if it's any form of ribis that's given, even though it's given, even if the loiva says clearly I'm giving to the matana, it's aser. Why? He gives a klal. Every ribis, called ribis mechila matana. Every ribis is considered really mechila matana. A person's not. Why is you can't say that he feels like you're stealing from him. He's obviously giving it as a present. He's moichelit. Why? These people give the ribis because it's belev shalom. They don't feel like they're being robbed. They look at it as a business investment. They need to be able to get the loans further, so they have to make their credit good. And they know if they're going to pay ribis, people are going to be easier to lend them money. Torah is not le'machlo ve'asr mechila u'matana zu. Chen chacham asru b'ribis shel divrei. Yeah, and then he says if matana b'ribis, matana lahachzir is also asr. And if you took it and then fill b'ribis shel Torah, you don't have to return it. Yeah, that's in the makor of it as a kuf samach sif dal and sif hey. In Sif Yud Zayin, in the mechaber, you have a halacha, which I was asked about yesterday, 2 days ago. It says like this: Talmidei Chacham shehilvu zeh zeh. I'll go to Tur. The Tur says Talmidei Chacham mutarim lahalvos zeh lezeh beribis. Talmidei Chacham are allowed to lend each other beribis. The fish yoidim shu asur. Being that they know what ribis is and they know what's considered asur, so they don't have any sort whatsoever in their mind to think that it's asur. They give it as a complete matana. Yeah. So the first thing that strikes out is why is Talmid Chacham allowed to do? We know that we said before every ribis is matana gemura, but why is they're allowed to? Well, not dafke. But dafke b'davar mot. Shadam lo gelit in the chaver matana v'yesim meken. It's something small, yeah, but something big now. Shulchan Aruch. The din of Talmid Chacham today, the definition of Talmid Chacham here is because sheyoidim shu asur. If you know specific what it is, and maybe that's the definition of Talmid Chacham. If you learn the Chassidus, yeah. If you learn the Chassidus in Kolel, you got Talmid Chacham for this Indian. But for other things of dafka. You have to stay. If you leave early, it doesn't work, yeah. It's a separate gather of Talmid Chacham. But dafka b'davar more she'adam lo gelit l'chaver matana v'yesem meken like only something small, which is usual in matana, because then you could always say that it was taka matana. He gave it to Talmid Chacham, taka gave it as a matana.
It's talking about not the whole, just
the extra ribis, yeah, the extra ribis. And the Shulchan Aruch, the way it says, Talmidei Chacham shehilvu zeh zeh, they already lent each other dvarim shel maichol, v'nosan lo yoyser al mashalava, mimenu atchayim shel ezimuter. They already lent food. It doesn't say anything. The Torah just says anything. Alva beribis, as long as they're remote. You're allowed to go ahead and do it. The Mechaber looks at it differently. He says there's Talmidei Chacham that they lent each other something which was already, they already did a loan. Something which is food. And when he gave back more than what he borrowed in food. But it's clear that this was given as a matana. The Ramah brings, so it's clear from here that it's only which if it happened after. The Ramah brings the Yeshayim the way the Ramah understands it is that even if it was done at Tnaim L'Chatchila, it's still mutter, as long as it is something small. It means L'Chatchila you could decide, I'm going to give you 8 carats, you give me back 9 carats. If you tie both of Talmidei Chachamim, as long as it's Dover Mot. But the Ramah right away realized what's going to come out of it. Yeah. Now, just a brief point to point out. There's different forms of what's considered marasayin. Why things are asur mishum marasayin. There are things that are asur mishum marasayim because other people are going to learn from you. And there are things that are asur mishum marasayim because it's going to cause a bizayon or chil Hashem. Bizayon tamid chacham. What's the nafkamina? Something which is asur mishum marasayim you're allowed to do yourself in your house or in a place where nobody sees you. I'm asking you. I'm saying this. It's a chayra. If you're something which is the only reason is people are going to see you. If you're in a city that only has goyim, you're the only Jew in the town. And the issue of Maris Ayin is only because people are going to learn from you. Maybe it's not also. Yeah, maybe it's not also. Yes, the question. Yeah, so there's certain things. Over here, the reason why they say Le'ar Gilu, that Amos says, because people are going to learn from you. They're going to learn from you. They're going to see you doing it. They're going to learn from you. So if you become easy on this matter and you get used to it, you're not going to pay attention who to, and what. And you're going to teach people are going to learn from you to do it, and it's a problem. But he's not oiser it completely. But there's an issue of manasayin. If there's amanatzim around you have to be careful what you're doing. Yeah, the Taz brings 5 conditions. He goes through the Taz of it, brings 5 conditions about when this is mutter. He doesn't hold like the brings the Rambam Shitta. He explains the Rambam gives 5 conditions. Only if it's a Talmud Chacham, only if it's a Vermut, only if it's food, not money. Only when it was given from yourself. That then you could say that there was that means that the loive gave it from his own accord, not because it was decided from up front. The 5th one is because it wasn't decided from the beginning. And why? Because then we could say that it wasn't, the intention wasn't for a hava. That's the Taz brings these 5 things to the Rambam. There's a long Beis Yosef on this. The Beis Yosef brings the Sefer HaTrumas, and he brings the reasons. Now, it's very important. We have to understand why is a Talmud Chacham different, and why in these scenarios, each one, what the din would be. Lu Yitzur is going to be a regular person. Like, what's the difference? Why is it that certain things are mutter and certain things are asr, depending on whether you're Talmud Chacham or not? So if you understand the Yisurim of each one, or the problems, the reason why each one of these things is asr, then you understand what it is. So first you have to understand this to see what the reason why here we're matter. So you have a Beis Yosef, the Beis Yosef says, and bring them with Sefer HaTrumas. First thing is, that you have to realize the lashon is lahalvois zeh lo zeh. Both sides have to be a Talmud Chacham, the borrower and the lender. Why? Because then they have a look of chavura shein makpidim zeh lo zeh. They're like part of the same group and they're not makpid one another. So it's nothing to do with the knowledge. Yeah, we have in the Tur says that's the reason is because yoidim shu aser. Talmud Chacham knows it's aser, so he's going to be careful. Sefer HaTruma doesn't say the reason because Talmud Chacham knows. He says because they're very close and friendly to each other, b'nei chavura. And therefore, when you're part of the same group, when you're part of the same community, small community, it will be easier for you to, there's certain things that you give as a present without thinking. If somebody borrows something from you, you're not going to measure it exactly. Someone borrows from you a sugar or carrots or onions or this, you're not going to go and weigh them back. When you bring it back to it's your neighbor. He needs this today, you need that tomorrow, and shine. Half a bottle of milk, you're not going to measure it with a measuring tape to see, make a line where the bottle of milk finished to know exactly how much it was, or pour it on a scale. So then tomorrow when you return the bottle, you're going to take a different bottle and pour out until you hit that point on the scale that you marked the day before. Expiration date gives a different value. You have to find a bottle with the same expiration date, yeah? Because it lasts longer, maybe it's different. Yeah, why? So over here, see from the Sefer HaTruma, it's nothing to do with the Talmud Chacham. It more has to do with the gather of a present. A person gives you a present. If it's a same clan, same group of people, then that's fine. What's the difference between it? Just simply, if Talmidei Chachamim don't get along with each other, and that's That's not as uncommon as people think. So okay, according to the Sefer Atrumas, this is not going to work because they're not part of the same chavura and they are makpid zelza. If they're not Talmidei Chachamim and they're bnei chabura, so from the Sefer Truma, it seems like it's also not a problem. Two siblings, two neighbors, in the same, right next to each other, within the same, close enough. From the Sefer Truma, it looks like that the issue is a bnei chabura, more of a bnei chabura, but it doesn't say clearly that someone's not Talmid Chacham. But if the reason is because of bnei chabura, that is because when you're in a certain friendship, very tight friendship, that these kinds of things happen, then it's not such a problem. Yeah, and then the Beis Yosef brings that it's only when it comes to food, and only the Beis Yosef is more machmer. He brings conditions. He doesn't like from the Ramah, from the Tur it's mashma that it's mutter l'chatchila to do it. The Beis Yosef doesn't hold like that, like we see also in the Shulchan Aruch. He says only Beiskei Suda. It's only when there was no Iskei Suda means food, something which is by a meal. You didn't make with him a deal from the onset that you're going to give him extra. Only ended up in the end, the person when he gave back more, and it's only up to a chaimish, only up to 20%. Yeah, and the reason is shekol kayetze was a derech kavod v'shari. It's a derech kavod. It's something which you in a time in this scenario, time of a meal, and it's up to that amount. It's derech kavod. It's honor the other person. It's not because you plan on giving him ribbis. You're not going to go if a person gives you a small potato. You're not going to measure exactly the same size potato. You're not going to do the same exact thing. Okay, it's the normal way that is done. But by Amaretz it's derech ribbis, and therefore it's awesome. But if they make it naim echatchila, they're going to give more, then it's aser even from a Talmid Chacham to a Talmid Chacham. That's how the Beis Yosef looks at it. Then the Beis Yosef,
same exact case, details that if a heart does it looks like rivers.
Yeah. The same exact thing. If the Amaretz does it, then it's derech ribbis and it's aser.
It's like that, right?
The way it's looked upon, what he's going to do is not going to be derech kavod, from one Talmid Chacham to the other. Sifkat Yudches in the Torah. It's going to be derech ribbis.
What's the difference between that and Isha Shalasim Chavar?
What?
Why is Isha Shalasim Chavar Kikar? It's fine.
If what? To measure, you don't have to weigh the same.
Pash.
Same thing. Nechabura, yeah.
No. Doesn't it?
Yeah, but it says the same people. It's not a problem to give back the same way. It's not a problem to give back another loaf of bread without weighing.
Right. It's
Iskei Suda.
Right, but it's not something some ways. Is it?
It's by two neighbors, probably the same Nekuda. Because it doesn't have to do with the knowledge. It also has to do with if it's derech kavod, it's probably either derech kavod or it's the way things are done. The issue is when it's done. If an Amaretz does it and he makes it in his mind that he's going to give more, then it's a problem. So he realizes it's ribbis.
So basically, this case, what's the big part of the problem? Like I say, anybody knows each other. That's what he's saying for some place.
Pretty much, if it's something which is common between these people, it looks like it's not a problem. Same thing for some place.
Of course, some places talking about different mindful, different subjects, so that I also, they're talking about friends and etc.
Yeah. If they don't know, Amaretz doesn't know these things, he might think about it as a derech ribbis. It's going to be given to him as derech. He gives 10 carrots instead of 8. It's going to be derech ribbis. He doesn't think of it that it's just because of adding more. Not counting the carrots, it looks like a derech ribbis. That's what it looks like. It's one piece. No, over there it's talking about one versus 1. Over here we're talking about 8 to 10 to 12 carrots is at chaimish. It's not a problem. Then you have the Agois Ashri, which the Beis Yosef brings the Ramah and the and the Darkei Moshe and the Beis Yosef disagree on what the point of the Agoras Ashri is, what he's trying to bring. Yeah, and I'm not going to get into it now. I wrote it down. I'm not going to get into it now. The Drisha on the Tur brings from the Rosh. Why is it mutter in this scenario? Because Talmid Chacham knows this is something which you would have given to him as a present, something small, which you would have given to him as a present regardless. That means it's not something which he gives only because of the loan. It's not something which the other guy expects because of the loan. It's something which would have been given regardless, and therefore it's mutter. But the question still remains. The main question over here still remains: is why is it mutter for Talmid Chacham to do such a thing? If everything is matana, if everything is mechila, if every ribis is matana and mechila, why is it that over here we go through something? It's a matana. We say it's a matana gemura. We say he knows what he's doing, so therefore he's not considering it as a matana, and therefore he knows that he's giving it as a proper matana. Like one of the explanations, it's a matana that he would have given anyways. All of these things we see across Hilchos Ribis no alasa. The matana that you would have given anyways, it's also awesome. Small matana is also awesome. All of these kinds of extra is also awesome. So why is it over here by Talmid Chacham you have it different, right? So now, if you make a deal with Milchatchila, let's say it's not a Talmid Chacham. I lend you 10 carats, and they say I'm going to, on condition you give me back 12 carats. That's Kemat Ribis K'tzutza. Because I'm Milchatchila, I'm deciding with you, I'm giving you 10, you're giving me back 12. So Chayra would be Ribis K'tzutza. Yeah? So, according to the Shittas would say that it's mutter l'chatchila, we have to know why by a Talmid Chacham it's mutter. Yeah, so the simple way of looking at it is you have to follow those that make more sense according to the explanation. The Talmid Chacham knows it's ribis, so he's going to make sure that it's not done in the form of ribis. But how? It's not clear how he can do it. If it's done, if he didn't make it from the beginning, and like this, if he makes a deal from the beginning, when you give the loan, the reason why the Malveh agreed to give you the loan is because he told him you're going to give him more. The reason for even if he didn't say clearly, it's for the sake of ribis. The fact is, this lender might have not given it to you if you wouldn't have given him the extra 2 carats. Right? That's why if it's done l'chatchila, it's also. Could be he gave it to you only because the only reason he got the loan is because he's relying on those 2 extra carats, so he's going to get his ribis. So the only way this would work for a Talmid Chacham is if we're going to go back to what we said before. It's something which is matana, which you would have given him anyways, or something which is regular that they give as a matana to each other. If they didn't make a deal from the onset that they're going to give each other this extra at the end, but only came the end, and then during the time of Piron, he gave him the extra 2 carats. So if it will be a regular person, we have clearly in the Alter Rebbe, in the end of Sa'if Zayin, that's Nira Keribis. That will be the Lashon of the Alter Rebbe. The Lashon of the Alter Rebbe is in the end of Sa'if Zayin. B'shas hapiron, l'divrei hakoil osur lo zeh litein v'lo zeh lekabel afilu dover muot yoser mechayiv, or even something small which is more than a chayiv. Bein mois bein dover acher, whether it is food, whether it is money, or it is anything else. Afilu bestam, even if you don't say anything with it. Afilu in miskaven klal b'shvil alva, even if the giver does not even have in mind, no kavana even is connected to the alva. Even if he's used to giving him matanas before, anything which is given at the time of Piroin looks like ribis. Doesn't make a difference how you slice it. If you give it at the time of Piroin, it looks like ribis. Therefore, it's awesome. So if it's done at the time of the Piroin by a regular person, it looks like ribis. So, by Talmid Chacham is mutter. So you could take the approach, very simple approach. Alter Rebbe doesn't mention the whole thing about Talmid Chacham anywhere across the Shulchan Aruch. in Hilchos Rebbe, and doesn't hold of it. And the Alter Rebbe puts every possible excuse that there is for Talmud Chacham is included in this if Zion as the possible scenarios and the possible kavanas that make it not good. Well, let's see if we can. Everyone's like a Talmud Chacham, but then why is B'Shas Piron? It's every single excuse we just went through. Every single reason doesn't. He says, Afilu b'stam ben b'dover acher could apply to. He starts also lazelit to the kabafilu dover muot. We said dover muot. Ben mois ben dover acher. It's food. Afilu b'stam. We didn't plan it mechatchila. Einay miskav and klal b'shvil avo. Afilu rogi litin lematan eskerim lochem.
Why does Alta feel Talmud Chacham?
Doesn't mention Talmud Chacham. Huh?
He doesn't even
By where?
Alta was Rabbi, but feel Talmud Chacham.
I'm saying it doesn't mention Talmud Chacham. Doesn't mention either or.
He's saying
I would argue
even a Talmud Chacham is not allowed.
Even Talmud Chacham is not allowed.
That's what he's saying. He's saying
The Alter Rebbe held there's no real gather of such Talmud Chacham, or this part of Shulchan Aruch was written for Balabat, not for the Talmud Chacham, because that's like a Choshen Mishpat of the Alter Rebbe was not written. It was written as a for the people, for the regular people to be able to know what to do. Huh?
Never says that about Seder B'Sanan.
Huh?
Never says that about Seder B'Sanan.
Seder B'Sanan, yeah, it was written for. The Choshen Mishpat was also written for that. That's what it's different than the Seder Shulchan Aruch. Seder is also different than Seder Shulchan Aruch. It's written more, we'll call it like a separate independent chibur, like Hilchos Talmud Torah, Hilchos Rebis and Choshen Mishpat. These were written as independent. Seder B'Sanan and Tosidayim. They were written as independent collections, unrelated to the general thing. Now, if you give it after Piron, that means you pay him back the 10 carats, and you give him another 2 carats. Then that's where you have the beginning of Sif Zayin, where Alter Rebbe brings the different opinions. Some people say the Svara Rishon is that Lava mimenu v'hechzil ma'osav v'meshager lo'darin b'shul ma'osav shehoyu b'teles. That's like zayiribus mucheres. Im hoyu rogel l'shleich l'darin and koydem lochein muter l'vat shlo yiskav v'nachshav l'shleich b'shul alva. As long as you don't have intention right now that you're sending it because of the alva that was given before, then it's muter. But then there's people yesh matirim, even any davar muad, even bestam she'einu mefarish lo, as long as you don't say that it's for the alva. You don't have even if you kavana, here we see that even if you have a kavana to do it, it's mutter filo hayaragilit and they koydem lachain the fish matonim muetas again harbim ne'odem shlach ish le'eu ve'enikar shehu ribis. You can't see, it's not visible that it's ribis. So we have over here pretty much when it comes to a matonim muetas, if it's b'shas piron, Alter Rebbe says nira keribis. If it's after Piron, then if it's not something which you're used to, so according to the Yeshayim, it's mutter because it's also a nikar shuribis. Even if you're not used to giving the present, it's something small. But it's only if it's given afterwards. So the main issue by giving at the time of Piron is only because it's nira keribis. So the question is over here. Yeah, let's go back to Sif Hey for a second on Alter Rebbe. When the Alter Rebbe says that the reason why Mechila is not good is because the borrower wants that people should lend him more. The Lashon Alter Rebbe is it's a matana gemura k'sheyimtzu tamid l'uvos. So be'etzem we could say that form of a matana, even though it's not given l'shem ribis, it's given in connection to the loan, connection to this loan, and connection to the next loan. It's given to do something as a benefit, so this guy should lend you money again. So it's taka a problem. Yeah, so even though it's a matana gemura, it is connected somewhat to the alva, and therefore it's a problem. But if it would be a matana muetes, you would say if it's not b'shas piron, it doesn't look like ribis. If it's b'shas piron, it looks like ribis. So here, when it comes to Talmud Chacham, so you have, let's say, if you want to say that the Alter Rebbe does agree that Talmud Chacham is different, even though it doesn't mention anything about Talmud Chacham. You could say all the reasons being the Malva knows Hilchas Ribis from Talmud Chacham. The Loive also knows Hilchas Ribis. They both know, and they're both part of the same Chavura. So you have everything. They're part of the same Chavura. They know Hilchas Ribis. They're used to giving each other presents. So if it's a Davar Muat, and usually there's no such a kfeide that you give a little bit more than what's given. Yeah, like you see, it's nire bechush. There's such a thing. Yeah, so even it's something which is even if it's not a Talmud Chacham and it wouldn't be b'shas peroin, it would be after peroin, it would be mutter. Yeah, if it would be regular people who give each other presents on a regular basis, then it's a davar muat, and they're friendly, they give each other presents before, it wouldn't be a problem to do it after the peroin. Only during peroin it would be a problem, and only because of nire keribis, because it's visible, it looks like it is ribis. So that connects. You could so when it comes to Talmud Chacham and he gives b'shas peroin more, and the only issue is because of nire keribis, you could connect it to what we mentioned before about the. You see it also in the B'Yosef that en nire kematana lemerze kol hay keribis and nire kematana le keribis. The lashon of the Ramah, that you shouldn't do it in front of people, so they shouldn't learn from you. They shouldn't learn from you how to do it. So when it comes to Talmud Chacham, if it's done in such a way, it's not nire keribis. It's not seen like ribis because it's something which is usually done, even though it's b'shas peroin. You could maybe say that according to Alter Rebbe, it wouldn't be a problem by Talmud Chacham, even though Alter Rebbe doesn't mention it, because you avoid the only problem is nire keribis, because you give it usually, and everything else is nire keribis. So you wouldn't have such a problem in this because they don't see it. They don't see you do it between Talmidei Chachamim. It's not visible to other people. You know the problem of Marasayin. It doesn't seem like ribis because both sides know that issue of ribis, and both sides know that it's not that the guy's planning on not the giver is not being mechaven to ribis. He would give the present anyways. The receiver is also Talmid Chacham. He's mechaven not to be received al ribis. In such a scenario, the Chayri could say it's not nire keribis, because if we don't say this, then we have a problem. If the Talmud Chacham today is actually allowed to do it or not, because Alter doesn't mention a Talmud Chacham, and the only thing he says when it comes to the end of Sif Zayin, all he says, he gives you all the excuses of a Talmud Chacham, and he concludes that it's also. He says because it's nire keribis. The only way to say that Talmud Chacham would be mutter is if you figure out a way to avoid this nekuda of nire keribis.
The logic that you're saying that wasn't written for that was written for the Amaratzim and he was relying on Cheshemishva where he would.
No, Cheshemishva also is written for the Amaratzim.
No,
both.
Is that enough reason to not include the whole thing of Talmud Chacham?
There are a few other dinim which are not included. There's a few other dinim. You look in the beginning of the Maftech which I posted, you'll see there's a few sifrim which just appear in Alter Rebbe. No, if you would argue, he would say that even by Talmud Chacham it's also. Either he argues, or it's not. There's two ways of looking at it. Either he disagrees with this nekuda that today, for whatever reason, you shouldn't do it. And that's why he brings all the reasons, doesn't mention Talmud Chacham at all. Or because he gives you the reason of nire keribis, Talmud Chacham is going to learn it and he's going to understand that for him it's an exception because he also knows where it comes from, the Alter Rebbe, where the Alter Rebbe copied it from, in Shulchan Aruch, where the Alter Rebbe was medayik it from. And if it's not nire keribis, it's not a problem.